Now, if this is your first time watching, my name is Darren Gertis. I'm a professor who has built multiple leadership programs at Charleston Southern University. So we'll also view these events through the lens of leadership. And I also wrote a book about Zelensky called I Need Ammunition, Not a Ride, and you can find it on Amazon.
I'm looking at this article, and this was actually a fairly well-written article, again, from the point of view of the Russians, about the West's feudal folly, why sanctions against Russia haven't worked in the past and they won't work in the future. Now, while I don't agree with everything that was said, there are a few things I want to key in on. One, sanctions I don't think actually work. Not in any meaningful way, like not in a significant way. Like Biden seems to think like if you just put enough sanctions on them, they'll crumble. No, they won't. They'll keep going until they just grab more of somebody else's stuff and go home with it and use that. Um, in the same way that like he once thought that you could just fight a war with air power. Look what we did with Afghanistan, pulling out, and we're just gonna, from over the, what was it, over the horizon, we'll do stuff. No, you actually have to have particular ground troops. So your theory about how the world works really does matter. Okay, here, the Russian economy is currently experiencing unprecedented pressure from a group of countries led by the United States with more than 10,000 sanctions. Now, 10,000 sanctions. This could be, I sanction you, Putin. I sanction your brother. That's two. I sanction your girlfriend. That's three. I sanction your wife. That's, or ex-wife. That's four. And so we can just add them up. But there are a lot of sanctions. Compare this to even Iran, which has been the West geopolitical punching bag for many years now. It's only subject to about 3,600. So sanctions aren't broadly covered. I read an article yesterday where like the bank that actually pays the military in Russia is not sanctioned. Like, why would you not sanction that? And they've been through now 7 rounds of sanctions, of Western sanctions imposed. Like, again, this whole block of these things and those. Why not? Why didn't you do that in week one? I mean, that would have been the way to go about doing it. Okay. Um, Putin claims, I don't care about them, these sanctions. Vladimir Putin said in an interview on Russian media in March, on the country. Now, this was interesting. On the contrary, confidence in the country's president was strengthened. Western political scientists have observed that the introduction of sanctions against Russia have only led to the well-studied rally around the flag effect. And Putin's popularity has increased from like 67% to 82% or something very close to that since the invasion began. So the Russian population has been supporting Putin in what he's doing. Let me scroll back down. Western countries are doing all that they can to weaken the ruble. That's true. To increase inflation, break logistics change, create a shortage of consumer goods in order to bring discomfort to Russia's inhabitants. Yeah, they're doing that. I mean, that is the point of sanctions. Half the population is opting to purchase cheaper goods in place of more expensive ones, while 1 in 5 abandon projects such as an apartment renovation, relocation, educational courses. As a result, the majority of Russians, some 60%, said the sanctions have had some effect and what's happened in their lives. The proportion of the Russian population that believes the country is definitely going in the right direction has remained steady at 65 to 70%. That's what's going on according to the press in Russia. I'm not sure if it's true, but let's say it is. That's crazy. If it's not, it's propaganda. Okay? And then they contrasted this nicely. Joe Biden's approval rating is only 36% and continues to sink with the bottom nowhere in sight. That's true. Biden's popularity is going way, way wrong. And even Democrats are now saying the country is going the wrong direction by a large majority. Okay. Let me scroll down. There was one more thing here. There was a guy that was talking about, here it is. Indeed, the restrictions, no, there's one more after this. Yeah. So indeed, the restrictions against Russia have inflicted the greatest pain on the best educated and highest earning strata of the country's population. So those with the most means are those that are being squeezed the most. Those that are professionals, that their Western jobs have gone away, that kind of thing. And the countries, many feel that the sanctions would have been imposed on Russia regardless of its behavior because the West wants to weaken Russia. Well, yeah, but they didn't want to weaken Russia before the Ukraine war, at least not like this. Like there was no motivation. Like they keep forgetting that this part precedes the other part. Um, yeah, and then they're talking about the negative attitude towards U.S. foreign policy strengthened after 2014 when a coup took place in Ukraine with a clear American support. Again, If you watch Russian television, if you watch or if you read Russian internet, if you watch Russian television, you'll see them talk about how the West caused this in 2014 with Donbass, and how Ukrainians have been persecuting the Russians in Donbass, and that kind of thing. So that's a common refrain. The prime minister said that Russia's economy is in the most difficult situation in the last 30 years. Economists predict that inflation may reach as high as 15 to 20%, but unemployment will peak at 8%. I'm not sure how they're getting those figures, but they're admitting something. Now, there was this interesting thing where this one guy, a 35-year-old employee, says, and I think this is a fair understanding of just average Russian kind of thinking from what I've detected in the Russian media. Russia, quote, Russia is conducting a special operation to guarantee the physical security. Sanctions, now that's, I don't think, true, in fact, but I think that's how they perceive it. Sanctions are a great reason to strengthen economic security. Now Russia has a unique opportunity to develop its own industries and agriculture. Well, you're kind of forced into it, and that's never good if you're doing everything internally. He says this: the country can already provide itself with grain, vegetable oil, fish, meat, potatoes. With the sanctions, the country will only become stronger in the future. No, no, no. So when you do everything internally and you're not trading, you're becoming weaker, not stronger. And here's what's being left out. About 30% of the federal Russian government's economy is from energy. It's from oil and natural gas. And when they can't trade that, now they're finding backdoor ways to doing it, but they're not trading it with the West anymore. They're picking up some with China, but there's no real pipeline, so it has to go more expensively by boat all the way around. So if they can't trade the oil, they lose the revenue. If they can, they have to do it a bit more expensively. And they've actually pushed out more oil recently and made millions of rubles. But it's going to be a tricky thing. And folks like India, that's getting a 30% discount, they don't want to play that wrong and then be on the sanction list. China's being really hyper careful, trying to support Russia without looking like they're supporting Russia. Okay, that's pretty much it. They're talking about like the decision to pay for require a European country to pay gas in rubles has also been a factor. It propped up the ruble, and the ruble dropped like a rock, and then it's higher than it was before the invasion. So that's the skinny on sanctions. I thought this was well worth paying some attention to, and I hope that helps you understand what's going on in Russia today.
Hey, if this video was helpful, hit like to help others find it in YouTube's algorithm. Subscribe so that you can stay informed. And one more thing, if you are moved to contribute to the humanitarian aid for Ukraine, I have a link below for Samaritan's Purse. If you want to give, be sure to give only to reputable organizations. There's a lot of scammers out there. Thanks for your time.